This is actually one movie where I'm kind of like, maybe the kids don't need to sit and watch this.
Right.
except for except for Zoe, she's hardcore.
All you need is a little knife and just tell her to take a tablespoon.
Oh my god, I was peeing my pants just about when that happened. A tablespoon.
Dude, this movie was fucking funny. I'm like, what is happening here? I mean, I know some of the stuff is in like trailers, but I was just like, my God, the context of the scene was even better.
Yes, like it could have been one of those movies where you think, oh, they showed you all the funny parts in the preview. No, that certainly wasn't true at all, even in the Red Band trailer. Like there was some really cool shit to this movie. Stuff that makes your jaw drop to the bottom of the floor.
Yeah, like they absolutely did show you like some of the cool moments, but unlike some trailers, it's not like, my God, they showed all the good stuff in the trailer and then the rest of the movie is pure fluff around it. No, like the 2-3 minutes, this is like a 90-minute movie. That it was fun from beginning to end, in my opinion. It kind of beat my expectations of it, even from a trailer and not really knowing the original story, other than the bear ate cocaine and died. They just took the pure concept of a bear on cocaine and went nuts with it. And that was
Yeah,
perfectly fine by me.
because the real bear that it happened to died very quickly because
Like drug overdose. I mean,
yeah, respiratory issues shut down, fucking brain function, no oxygen going. Cocaine's fun in small doses, kids. Uh, but yeah, this creature, like it's a monster almost like you haven't seen in years on the screen, and she's
I know, right?
hysterical.
Yes.
And she's cute too. And the worst part about it is the CGI that they use for her is not very good, and that makes it perfect.
Well, you don't
Like,
need this to be that perfect. You really don't. I mean, you're taking a concept of a bear on cocaine and then slaughtering everybody in sight. You want photorealistic? No. You just it goes with the exaggeration. Like, if I remember right, they were handing out promotional items and people were going dressed as bears, like to the premiere of this. Like, you're supposed to be having a good time and fun. Like, okay, let's go back and watch like a Tremors sequel, Aftershocks. Yeah, there's some CGI and there's some practical. And when they do the practical in this one, it's even better. So it's
yeah,
like, they know their CGI and they did a really good job. It's just not Avatar level, but do you want this movie to make any money? I mean, this is better than
yeah.
Sharknado, for fuck's sake.
This is a lot better than a lot of movies.
Yes.
It's it is clever. It's not original, but it is very clever. Like I got
I thought
excited.
so.
Yeah, a lot of the plot points or the plot engines that happen are actually just ripoffs of other movies. Ironically, happen to be movies that Universal Studios owns, Jurassic Park and Jurassic Park 2. Um, and I mean, we'll get to that later. But oh no, I think I just zero pointed myself with Jurassic Park.
That's number one.
Yes. What was I getting at? Oh, the creature. You haven't seen a monster like her on the screen in a long time, and I got excited just hearing that Elizabeth Banks was going to be directing this because she's super duper funny.
Yes, she's
Um,
very good with her
I don't know that
comedics.
I've ever
Yeah.
really watched her so much on TV. She's hysterical in everything she does. Like even on the small parts of TV that I've seen her on, like Modern Family,
Right.
fucking hysterical. And she's got this wonderful personality that shines through in all of her characters. And this, like you see little bits and pieces of her and all these different characters, which is really fun. But you never really kind of think about Elizabeth Banks being so smart that she could make a movie this fun, this interesting, this silly, and have it be a success like it is. Like
Yeah.
I'm seriously happy for her.
Yeah, and I'm glad it was a bit of a hit for her too, because if I know she's had some issues with some of her directorial films not being quite as successful, and she kind of needed this one to be a hit, and I thought it was a pretty good hit, and it falls right in line with any other creature feature that's like a horror comedy. This fits right in. I'm gonna add this right into the collection, right along Tremors, right along, even some of the Jaws sequels, Jurassic Park, any of your animals go crazy. And this is it to a T for me. I absolutely found this to be a riot and a hell of a good time.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned Jurassic Park because one of the things that I'd said when we lost contact was this movie is clever and funny, but not necessarily original. There are like a few tropes that happen in this movie, or a few scenes that are like plucked directly out of Jurassic Park, to the point where Carrie Russell and the kid are walking through the field where the Gallimimuses are like stampeding. So I mean that it wasn't a bad ripoff. It was just and we'll talk about it more when we get there. There was a lot of familiar scenes.
Well, and no movie is 100% original these days. Every
Yep.
movie is pulling something from other movies. Tremors pulled it from 50s and 60s movies. You got like Friday the 13th, which was pulling from like the classic 70s era and twisting it around. You got like Psycho, you got Bates Motel these days as a TV show, reboots, remakes, sequels, prequels, got everything up and down the ladder. So like everything's fair game at this point, but the big thing is if you can take these tropes and do something fun and exciting with it, and it actually works for you, instead of like a carbon copy where it feels like a complete ripoff because you had no better idea.
That is what only I think maybe one scene in the movie felt like for me.
What was that scene for you?
That was Ray Liotta getting his comeuppance in the end. Um,
Every
like
bad guy in that situation should get their comeuppance. It just didn't happen the way I thought it would.
it happened exactly how I thought it would. As soon as I saw the cubs, I knew that he was going to hurt one of the cubs and then get fed to the cubs. Like very much like Jurassic Park 2, where they get the baby T-Rex and the one guy that's been an asshole the entire time gets fed to the baby in San Diego, I think it was.
See, and I wasn't expecting the Cubs to actually start eating the guts. That was a little more than I was expecting, but it was fine. I like that kind of thing. And
Yes.
another example of the practical effects that they did, which was pretty good because the guts were not fake. The bears might have been, but what however they did that, they made it work.
They did, and it looked good.
Yes.
Uh, a lot of the stills that I try to take from that scene are too dark, but it works in the movie itself. Like watching the movie, it's doesn't look too dark, but trying to capture anything from it does.
Yeah, you got
So
to turn the brightness up a little bit if you really want to catch like all the details and the shadows and things. Like if you're trying to watch this, say on like Peacock, which is, I watched a little bit on Peacock just to see how it looked. And I will say it goes back to the Game of Thrones thing from years ago, where the last season there were some episodes that were a bit too dark for the screen. That was actually an accident when that happened, and these days, streaming is not quite there unless you got like fiber optic and super high speeds. You're actually not going to get the full resolution you think you should be getting because they taper that stuff. And unfortunately, that might be happening on Peacock as well, but I haven't checked it out on the Blu-ray yet. So I can't really speak to that per se, but I was still able to see the details, but you might have to play with the brightness settings a little bit if you want to catch some of those things.
yeah, that's true. And I tried using a brightness filter to
Yeah.
enhance a couple of them, and it wasn't there. And I was like, well, you know what? That's kind of too bad, but eh.
We need Robocop's tech to enlarge and clarify.
That always made me laugh. That doesn't work in real life at all.
Nope, it's super pixelated, so I'm gonna zoom in and make it crystal clear.
Yeah, like just scrub it away.
Just scrub it with some cocaine, it'll be just fine, and then just go, and everything will be just fine.
When those kids put the dope in their mouth, like I laughed super duper hard because I was waiting for their mouth to start going numb, and they not be able to feel their lips and tongue, but they didn't even go there.
Yeah, they didn't even exaggerate that much. They didn't
But
really do much for like side effects other than I'm hungry.
which is actually not a side effect of cocaine. Coke blows an appetite suppressant, and an antidepressant too. So it's like whatever. They didn't show the kids high on cocaine. They showed them eating it, but not like snorting it as you should, or talking really fast, or having bird fingers, bird eyes, whatever. They didn't do any of that. There was a little bit of paranoia from the little boy Henry, but that was also within his character that was just really made him funny.
I loved Henry. He was like my favorite of the two kids.
I agree. He was not annoying because you know how Universal is. They'll put kids into a picture regardless of whether or not the character should be there or fits, so they
You
can
need
get
the age quota to be filled, and before union hours are up.
yeah. And I think I remember hearing something about people getting upset because it showed kids doing cocaine. But again, they
Oh,
weren't.
fuck off, people.
Yeah, it wasn't. They weren't doing cocaine. They fucking ate a bunch of it and spit half of it out, screamed, and decided they never wanted to do it again.
Had it sneezed on them.
Had it sneezed on him. uh, it was delightful. I thought it was really funny, but it's like they didn't make the kids look like they were high. What they did is they wrote the kids a little bit more adultish, and that worked for this too. It made them less annoying.
Yeah.
You knew that they were all bullshitting, especially Henry, who was talking about, oh, I sell drugs with so and so after church on Sunday.
It's like,
um,
uh-huh.
yeah, but it's like they're written as adults with innocence,
Yeah.
and it makes them really funny. So, I mean, I liked the kids in this.
I
And
thought, not just the kids, but like all the acting was actually pretty enjoyable and wild at times. I mean, he had Alden in this. It was like Han Solo. I'm like, all right, that's cool.
I forgot I had this. The eating the cocaine.
Oh my god.
Wait, Han Solo was in this? Who was he?
He was in the Han Solo movie, the younger Han Solo.
Yeah, yeah. Which who was he in this?
He was Eddie, the son of Ray
Oh,
Liotta's character.
oh, okay.
The one who had the bear fall on him.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a girl. How do you
That
know? Her vagina's on my ear.
that was disgusting. Like, okay,
Well, it could have
here's
been worse. It could have been a boy.
that's true, especially considering this angle here.
Exactly.
But like, this was the only part of the movie that legitimately disturbed me. I don't like being pinned down. Bears scare me in general, but it's the guy's being pinned to the ground by a 500-pound beast at least,
At
that's
least.
covered in fleas and deer ticks.
And cocaine.
Deer ticks. Well, the cocaine, you just sniff it and just push the motherfucker right off.
Ooh, cocaine deer ticks. That's the next sequel to this movie.
That would be rad. I guess people were asking Liz if she'd be fucking making Cocaine Shark. Why? Like, leave that to the fucking asylum. This worked. Just let it.
No, if you're gonna do a sequel to this, it's just cocaine bears, plural. I mean, you got the little young family, and they did the post-credit scene where it's like, nope, they're happy still getting high and looking for the next hit. There's no AA for them. So
No, I mean they were cute. They were cute. I don't know if this will turn out or not, but there's this wonderful scene where the three of them, the family, eat Ray Liotta and get the last of the cocaine and just like roar into the night together. You can't help but be like, yeah, good for you guys.
well, I like how they killed him, ate him, and then kicked him off the edge like later, bitch.
Wasn't that some shit? And
I'm like, whoa, that's good.
I liked Ray Liotta's character in this. Like you figure he's supposed to be the bad guy, and I guess in a way he was, but they have him coming off outside of being a drug dealer, a grandpa. He's stuck with his son's kid for God knows, was it 3 months?
Quite a while since what was her name? Joni died.
Joni.
Oh my god, Eddie and Joni. Oh my god.
Her name's John.
You put an H on there. I can't wait. Oh, that was so funny.
Oh, but I mean, Eddie was great in this. He really was, and Carrie Russell did a fantastic job. She got top billing, of course.
She was fantastic.
Yeah, she had probably my favorite line in the whole flick, where she's like, "Oh, Henry, we always find out."
Yeah.
It's like,
Well, and she did it like a normal parent would, of like, okay, so how were the drugs? Shit, how did you know? You just told me.
that was messed up. I was like, oh.
That's legit how parents do it. I mean, it's karma. When you have kids, you find out exactly how you were to your parents. It's like, oh, now I understand why they got mad at me all the time.
Yeah,
Okay.
right. They knew the whole time, those fuckers.
Son of a bitch.
Oh man.
But Carrie Russell, like, I'm glad she got cast on this. I thought she was on point and she was a lot of fun. She wasn't in it as much as I thought she would be, but I mean, everybody had pretty good screen time together, so I was pretty pleased with everything overall. But Carrie was excellent as well.
You know, I agree with you there. One of the things that I was going to say about it is she gets top billing in this movie, but she is not the star of this movie.
It's the bear.
No, it's not even the bear. I mean, yeah, it is the bear, but it's this guy, O'Shea Jackson Jr.
David.
David was like the coolest motherfucker in this movie, and him having the fucking going through the different phases of needing to get his job done to fuck this, I'm going home, was fantastic.
Yep.
I really liked it. And I liked the relationship between David and Eddie.
Right.
I liked the little fucking little blonde guy that was with them. They were a fun little trio to watch.
Oh yeah.
And then you'd get to Carrie Russell. And that was fine. That was fine. But this was a little bit funnier to me, and this kept the plot moving.
Yeah, and it also kept a little bit of the action going because he beat the shit out of this little punk gang that's been quote unquote terrorizing the park. And so watching him just absolutely beat their ass, and then he ends up going through the round of like losing his fingers in the shootout, then his fingers get eaten by the puppy at the end, and him getting shot, him having to contend with just about every character in the movie. It's like, man, dude's carrying the movie on his back a little bit, and not just because, top billing, whatever billing, doesn't matter. It just felt like every character had some importance except for two of those fuckers in that picture right there.
Yeah, like these two guys above my head, they had some of the better deaths, but
The guy in the middle, when his head got shot off, I literally screamed, yeah.
All I could think of was whoopsie doodle.
I was like, oh shit.
When she shoots him, like there's that half a second pause where she realizes what she did.
And she's just like, oh, whatever. I don't fucking care.
Ah! And meanwhile, the bear's just sitting here like this. Oh, hi. And she gets this kid's brains all over her face.
Yep.
And that's what sets her off. Otherwise, she was just sitting here on her ass playing with the door. She was scratching at it.
She's just being playful.
Yeah.
She's being a good girl. Hi, you got some cocaine? I'm ready for our next hit.
And that's what sets off this nice little horror element for when the cop shows up.
Oh my God, yes.
The red hand go up on the window, and you think he's going to walk into something and he doesn't. Like that saves for the whole next scene, which is another trope that they did, where they call the paramedics. And all I could think of was, as these paramedics are coming in to feed the bear, basically, is send more cops. It reminded me of the zombies calling for more food, basically.
Return of the
Return
Living
of the
Dead.
Living Dead.
Yep.
But
there was more build up
the
to that scene before that, so they didn't just go right into the ambulance thing. The paramedics show up, they check out the park office, and they stumble across the bears in there, and the poor EMT gets the doors stomped on. I'm like, oh, he did.
kind of right. Like I haven't seen shit like that since John Candy. At least John Candy could have fought back against the grizzly bear.
Was that the
This
Great
poor
Outdoors?
bastard. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to get a still from that with the bald headed bear and the bald butt.
Oh,
I just didn't have time. Uh, but he, like, you would have thought his insides would have been turned to jelly because the bear just sitting there like jumping on the fucking door on him.
yeah. But at least it builds up to the whole ambulance thing. It feels like a natural build up to it. And then the bear chasing him down and then leaping into the ambulance. And then what happens from there is just like balls out crazy. It's like, that's what you paid off for this movie, was some really cool death scenes from the bear. Like
Yes.
it almost plays like a slasher flick, but with a lot more fun going on rather than totally serious.
Yeah. And like the scene here where they're, like you said, once the bear jumps into the ambulance, then it's a whole other game.
It's like,
First,
oh my God, this is completely ridiculous. And the second he gets in the ambulance, it's like, oh, okay, you got me.
and the last thing that the fucking bear does is toss the ranger out of the back.
Oh man.
That was so gross. And they showed everything. Like there was no allusion to or cut away from, like they just showed her face scraping into the fucking road.
It's like the cheese grater scene from like Evil Dead Rises. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of gnarly.
So that's gonna be
But
another one not to watch on my VR set. With the
oh,
cheese
Evil Dead
grater scene.
Rises?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably not. Just because I'm thinking of the movie as a whole. And here's our second 0 Point going on, where we go off topic. That's what we reference with 0 Point, by the way. If you haven't figured that out by now you do. But yeah, VR for that is probably not the way to go. But this is now the second movie we've seen with this poor lady.
With Margot?
Yeah.
What was the last movie we watched her in?
Maybe I'm thinking wrong. Oh no, I'm just reminded by the truck at the end. I'm sorry.
Oh, that. Okay, yes. Okay, so where did it go? It looked like I found a cameo in the movie.
This is probably an homage, is what I call this.
Either an homage to or a coinky dink of, either which way. But
I would call homage on this.
I think so, because that very much looks like Sheriff Lund's truck. That's at the very end of Willy's Wonderland. And again, fantastic movie, very similar in this kind of vein as far as the horror humor.
Yeah.
This movie turns the horror up a lot more on it, and it's a little bit more plain, a little less gonzo, but a lot gorier. But it was nice to see Sheriff Lund's truck in that. Made me feel a bit like a nerd, super duper nerd. But just to make sure, so I didn't come off like a nerd and have it not be true, I did try to ping Imwa and ask him to be sure, but he hasn't been online yet this weekend. I was like, fuck.
Oh, yeah. I just thought that was really fun. I know we were talking about that earlier with all like the homages and tropes and whatnot, but that was one of those little Easter eggs. I'm like, I dig that. That's all right.
It was. And Universal, I mean, fuck it, they're fun for that. Like their backlot is in every movie that like this the house that's in Hulk with Eric Bana is in Garfield and fucking God knows how many other movies. Like no, I don't think Poltergeist, but it was somewhere anyway. I'm third zero pointing myself now.
Yep, that's three.
Oh, so anyway, getting back to Margot Martindale, uh, she was one of the funnier characters, the Ranger, and her main motivation through the whole movie is to get laid by Jesse Tyler Ferguson.
Which is like, what is going on here?
He's playing this super duper hippie, like over the top nerd hippie who doesn't like the word animals. Don't call him that. He doesn't like that.
Yeah.
And the Henry's trying to say, there's this fucked up bear. And he's like, bears are peaceful creatures. You must have done something.
What did you do?
And he gets it so bad. But I mean, that was one of the fun scenes stolen from another movie, two other movies actually. But it worked there and they used it right, and it was a lot of fun, and you can't knock it for being a ripoff of the Stay Out of the Tall Grass scene from Jurassic Park 2. Where
Or in
everybody
Tremors, where the guy has climbed the telephone pole and dies up there.
uh, yeah, actually that's true too. Although the bear could actually climb the tree,
Which I was going to
fuck.
bring that up because I thought that was completely hilarious. I'm up here so the bear can't climb up and get me. Bears don't climb trees. Yes, they do.
What are you doing up here?
And then he's got all the cocaine on him, and the bear's like, "Oh fuck that! Fuck going after the kid. I'm going boom, doom, down," and gets the guy in like 5 seconds. It's like,
Oh,
boy, that bear needs his hit like or her hit like now.
she bit him right in the taint and bit his leg off. I was like, ah, no, his balls.
Oh, but we haven't talked about it, but like the other set of characters in here was Olga and
Olaf.
Olaf and Elsa at the beginning.
Yes.
And where they're like, oh, they're this European couple, and they're going hiking, and they're the first ones to get taken out by the bear. And I just loved, I've seen it in so many movies, but the girl gets dragged away, and she's like, ah, and she gets pulled back into like the bush, and I don't know. I get a kick out of those every time I see them, whether it's dude, girl, whatever. I like that shot, and how they started off with that was like, okay, I know what I'm in store with this movie. We're gonna be okay.
Yeah, and they didn't rush that either, and it still
No.
felt nice. And that was one of the things, those characters, Olaf specifically, that I was talking to you before we started. There was a whole scene of him getting eaten finally by the bear, and they realized after they filmed it that it didn't work. Like it wasn't going to have any more impact than everybody that had already gotten eaten. And it just basically shows Sid, the what was it, Eddie and David with them, and then Reba. Um, shows them walking to the cave, and then they mention finding that hiker, and then there's a split flash to them falling on the hiker or Olaf, and you could
That was
tell.
that was Elsa. They fell on her. Her face was eaten off. It wasn't him.
I thought that was him that they landed on,
That's not the impression I got from watching that.
because they did find him. He does get eaten, and they do find him. They just cut it out, and I'm just kind of like that. Then why even mention him at all again later in the film if you felt like he was going to take away from it? It's like he
Hmm.
didn't need to find Carrie Russell and the kid. They probably could have just kept looking for the little girl, whom of course is carried away to the monster's cave. Um, Again, another trope, classic monster movie thing. and it still works here.
Yeah, that's kind of a King Kong thing. Like, I'm gonna take this one little itty bitty human being and I'm gonna put him back in my home with my babies. That's gonna be their snack for later.
Yeah, right. As they're all rolling around in all this fucking dust.
Which
Um,
is funny. And then she's just like, oh, they're fine. They're on coke.
they're on cocaine.
They're harmless. It's the mom you gotta worry about. And it's like, well, when they were crawling out of the duffel bag, I'm like, oh, they're so cute. They're covered in cocaine. Oh no.
And deer ticks and fleas. Would you still snort it? Yes.
Cocaine fleece. That's their trilogy right there.
There was a point in time in my life where I may have had some cocaine in front of me and I sneezed, as one does, and of course it goes poof all over the floor in front of me. And I was like, son of a bitch, because it was a lot to fucking waste.
And that's a lot of money, I would presume.
Yes. Yeah. From where I lived, it was kind of a bit more, because it was a hell of a lot better than the fucking meth that they used to make, which is just dirty shit anyways. But anyway, so I'm trying to like pick it up off the floor, and it's like, okay, here's a piece, that's a piece. Kitty litter, fuck.
Then you go back to scooping up the rest of it.
Yes, that is exactly correct. That, children, is what's fucking wrong with cocaine.
It gets everywhere.
Well, it'll make you eat fucking shitty cat piss or shitty cat griddle. It was yuck. Very yuck.
If you want a lesson in a PSA on cocaine, just watch RoboCop. That'll take care of it for you too.
I don't know. That taught me how to mix it with wine. And then I was kind of like, is that just a thing? No, turns out Stevie Ray Vaughan used to do that too as a hangover cure. He put it in his whiskey.
Interesting. Did not know that.
Yep.
And now you know, and knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe.
Demonetized. No, I'm kidding.
But then as we progress to the ending, we switch over back to David and Eddie, who's now found the cop, and they're all trying to get away, of course, and poor Eddie's stuck under this fucking thing. And as David goes to get close to it, more blow falls out of his pocket, and the bear hears that and opens its eyes, which is fantastic. And then you see the cop giving the bear the cocaine.
Yep.
And it's kind of looking like trying to catch food in the air. His tongue is flicking about in slow motion.
It's like a cat trying to play with a butterfly is what it was.
Very much, yes. And I was kind of like, ooh, I feel seen.
Well, what's funny is they took the character of the bear. It's basically the villain of the movie, but at various times you kind of feel for the bear, and then you start rooting for the bear. It's like, that's a good classic villain, kind of, or anti-hero, where you're supposed to hate the bear. You're supposed to find the bear evil. But at some point, no, I want that motherfucker to take out all the bad people in this movie. And it does.
Yes, she does. And she dies. She dies once or twice. Again, once on top of fucking David, and then later on, she gets shot and then falls.
Lands on her back.
Yeah, down the waterfall. And then somehow a bit of the blow fucking falls, and one of the kilos busts open, and it just goes falling down.
And it cascades into her nose. It's almost like an aromatherapy scene when I'm looking at it, or like a steam bath or a sauna. You just go, and the eyes open, and it's like a charge up, because the eyes go a different color, and it feels like, oh man, we're going into boss mode.
Boss mode.
Stage 3.
It was so funny. Like when you see it pulling into the snout, all I could hear was
To me, what I was hearing in my mind was the Ghostbuster proton pack generating as you turn it on. And I just kept going in my mind, oh shit, things are about to get really fucked up.
Well, I looked over at Brandy. I'm like, and I'll have you know, I know for a fact cocaine tastes a lot better than spinach.
That's funny.
Tastes like aspirin, which is still better than spinach.
Sponsored by Popeye.
Popeye's chicken is the shiznit.
And Bruno's Burgers? Yeah, that's for the follow up.
Oh
And
man,
if you're on cocaine, you're going to need all of that.
all that. No, but this movie was complete fun, and that's all it was. That's kind of
That's
what
what it needed to be.
yeah. This was exactly what you thought it was going to be, exactly what it needed to be, and it was done extremely well. Like it's no bad actors in this movie. No one's taking themselves too seriously, or is the type to take themselves so seriously that they're unwilling to fucking make a gag. Like it looked like everybody was having a ton of fun in this flick.
Yeah, and for Ray Liotta's last film, I mean, I would prefer him to go out on a much higher note, or as the name of the movie goes, it could be a much higher note.
I, you know, I
We all
liked
need
his
a little
character
whiff
in
of that,
this.
but
I said I liked Ray's character in this.
yeah,
Sid was not a horrible guy per se. He was just a businessman, dirty business, but a businessman and a grandpa at this point. And he doesn't want to be a fucking grandpa, but he is. So that's his responsibility.
well, and he actually makes that a point of his character, which gives his character some depth of this is a lot of cocaine. If we don't find this, we're fucking dead. That means me and you and your kid. That means all of us. Like, we don't want to be messing with or whoever the cartel was that he had dealings with. And
Uncle
he's like,
Escobar.
yeah, that I think that's what that was. And I'm just thinking to myself, he's got a point, whether you agree with it or not. He's got a good reason for wanting to be that way. But then at least he didn't shoot the deputy who had turned to the dark side. I thought she was actually going to get her comeuppance, though, but
She got nothing. That was very surprising.
she just gave the dog back to Eddie,
Like,
who was actually the cop's dog. So she got rid of the dog so she wouldn't have to take care of it. Great.
yeah, she was not a good person at all. Even fucking Ray Liotta looks at her like in shock and disgust. You left a dog in a car?
Like, what is wrong with you?
And then David's like, you left my son alone. And what was
In
it?
St. Louis. Like, oh man.
He's fine. He's at home watching cartoons. I don't need him.
Well, and as you find out, I think there was like a babysitter or somebody there watching him.
Yeah.
Or one of his drug powered underlings,
David, who doesn't want to fucking be around the kid at all.
No.
And David's character so into his jersey and his Nikes.
Oh, poor guy.
He was a little more 90s than he was 80s, but it was funnier than shit. It really was.
Man, I love this fucking jersey.
I just got these fucking shoes.
Poor dude. Oh, that was so funny. And then just everybody had great play off of each other. And I gotta say, the movie was exceedingly well shot, and I enjoyed the soundtrack. It started with Jane, for Christ's sake. And
It did.
And I thought that was great. I'm a wrestling fan, and I know it's Orange Cassidy's theme music in AEW, but I got a kick. It's like, hey, we're getting rolling. We're not doing this normal generic, music to start a movie off, or waiting until the opening crawl or credits are done. It's like, nope, here we go.
Yeah, and this is not a let's build up to it kind of movie. Like everyone that gets it pretty quick.
Yep, we get rolling right away.
You instantly get the feeling that the bear moves like a xenomorph. there's something wrong or supernatural
Maybe
with this
that's
thing.
why I was feeling like some alien vibes out of here. Like the damn predator, apex predator on the loose and high on cocaine.
Yes, it very much moved like the runner alien from part 3.
Yeah.
The one that was part dog or whatever it was, because all you'd see is just this little flash or like it zooming through tiny areas, and it's like, oh, this looks so cool. Because you I mean, yeah, you can see the bear, it's just a bear, but sometimes being the bear and stalking is a little bit more suspenseful for the viewer.
Right.
So that was also my almost my 4th 0 point, but I held it there.
Ooh, I'm gonna go that 3.5 because you pulled it back. You almost went all the way there.
I pulled it back. I can't remember what the hell I was talking about after that, though.
Too much cocaine will do that to you, people.
I wish. Cocaine is a fucking.
It's a hell of a drug.
Okay, kids, here's your PSA. Don't do drugs because they fuck up your life. Don't do drugs because they're fantastic and that's all you'll want to do. Then you'll fuck up your own life. That's all.
And that's the Sons and Shadows PSA.
That's right. Because really, cocaine feels fucking fantastic, but people are stupid creatures and ruin it. Ruin themselves, overdo it, let the drugs do them instead of doing the drugs, as it were.
Maybe what the next movie will be is Coca-Cola Bear, the original formula. People forget about that.
And it'll have funny to fight New Coke Bear.
New Coke Bear. It'd be called New Coke Bear City, like New Jack City.
New Jack City. And then here comes Cherry Bear, Cherry Coke Bear.
Cherry Bomb.
Cherry Coke, Cherry Coke.
Well, as long as it's not clear Pepsi, I think we're all okay.
I did not hate Crystal Pepsi.
I know I didn't either, but it's a fun joke.
I didn't go out and buy another bottle when they re-released it a couple years ago, but I was like, you know what? It wasn't the worst thing. It wasn't the best thing neither, but it wasn't the worst. The Van Halen song that accompanied it, meh, that was a little questionable.
Yeah, agreed.
I like this song, not its usage for the marketing.
Right. But we digress. That was our 5th. No. 0 point.
We're going for a new record.
No, we're at 4.5.
4.5. Oh, shit. The last picture I had that I almost skipped this for the stand of the tall grass was the clever girl part. Like, you, again, going back to the moving like a xenomorph or even a velociraptor again, you had a feeling that's kind of what was going to happen. The ranger was looking off in a certain distance, and realistically, you know that bear can't circle around that fast. But this isn't a normal bear. This is a bear on fucking cocaine that's cracked out of its fucking mind. And it has superpowers.
Yep.
And it scratches her right in the fucking ass. I didn't get a picture. I wanted to, but they show her retreating because she's got like 5 big scratch marks on her ass, going, motherfucker. This movie is worth your time. It's not
absolutely
a bend over your seat laughing all fucking 2 hours of it or 90 minutes of it, but it is really good. It is really funny, and just with the exception of that one scene that they should have just cut out completely, this is just a damn fun movie.
Entertaining as hell. This is popcorn flick definition right here. You want a complex plot?
Yes, and
go somewhere else, bro.
Yeah, no, that's not going to be in this movie. Yeah, this is just for people like us that like to watch these funny ass actors that we watch on TV, all having fun together in a horror film, and they can't help but to make it funny. and it's a wonderful flick. Now, I will say this about that: this is not a movie, like I said, that I would let Hunter and Harley watch. My 7 and 8 year olds. My 4 year old, she totally down with this shit, but she's a crazy kind of kid. Um, my son is not as giddy and happy for monsters as I am. He's still into his cartoons, his poo stuff.
You need to get him on some Gojira.
Oh, dude, he loves kaiju's. Why do you think we just got a Great Dane?
Yeah.
No, he loves Godzilla. We have all three of them, or the three new ones, and he watches the shit out of those all the time. And I'm kind of like, hey, you want to watch the one from the 50s? No, this one's cooler.
Uh-huh. He'll grow up, he'll get wise.
Can we buy another one of these? This one seems to be broken.
There you go.
Oh man, but yeah, and speaking of kaiju, my wife told me not to call the dog or reference the dog as a kaiju in front of Hunter because she doesn't want Hunter to think that the dog's actually going to grow up to be super huge. I'm like, but the dog is in fact going to grow up to be super fucking huge.
Right. It's basically in stage 1 of its stage 3 life growth cycle.
She's only 3 months old and she's 50 pounds, I think 40 or 50 pounds.
Yeah, she's still a baby.
Yeah. And
She is gonna get big.
her legs look like deer legs with fists.
It's gonna grow into them paws. That's what I'd remind your wife about is those paws are indicative of how big she's going to get.
Yes.
The rest of her are out of proportion for now. It won't stay that way. Like our shepherd, Tavra, when we got her paws are big too, and she filled into those paws.
That's one of the things I actually really love about German Shepherds is you can tell how big they're going to get because their feet are huge.
Yeah.
Like they're like my son, his head was much bigger than the rest of his body. And it's kind of that way with these guys. Like their feet are just so much bigger than the rest of their body until they grow up.
Yeah.
And they're cute and fun to play with. Like, and my dog's not that much of a bitch about it. I mean, she is bitch, she's a girl. But she's just like kind of like, oh, okay, you're gonna rub my feet. Go ahead. Go ahead. It's like, you're easy. Fine. I like you.
Mine wants belly rubs, and half the time when the bear was on its back and making snow angels on the ground, I'm like, somebody wants their belly rubbed. There's two of you standing right next to it. Rub that belly.
Well, I mean, don't you think that kind of could have solved the problem? Because the spare, the first thing it did was jump up and give David a hug. It wasn't trying to fuck him up. It was just like trying to be like, I love you, man.
Exactly.
Oh, fuck. Speaking of which, the picture that I wanted to make that did not come out, I had a side by side of it, is when the bear wakes up at the end after sniffing the cocaine, when it climbs back up over the edge of the mountain or the cliff, it's got the bullet that Ray shot him in the fucking mouth.
Oh, that was great.
And it spits it out.
It's like, motherfucker, you are dead. It's like it's coming up and it's pissed off. If you thought it was pissed off anytime in this movie before, no, it was really bad now.
As soon as I see it spit out the bullet or it smile with the bullet in between its teeth, I'm like, oh my God, this is about to go 6-7 shades of different kind of fucking silly. And it does. It does.
But not as campy as you think, because it doesn't get too much campier from that point. It gets crazy.
The only thing that happened that got stupid campy at that point was Kerry Russell getting the fucking deer rifle and taking the shell out. Yeah. Like, okay, you know how a bolt action works. You've seen TV. Good job. And the kids are like, wow, mom, fucking A.
I don't know. I got a kick out of that but they never showed any sort of like development before that she knew how to handle a gun. Like if they had shown like that there's a rifle in the house before or in a gun rack or in a gun case that's locked that nobody can get to, they could have shown something like that and you would have think, why does she have a gun? And then later on you see something like this. It's like, okay.
what was that? Was it a 270? Were you able to tell?
I really wasn't watching that much that closely, so I can't really tell.
All I know is that cop would have had a much bigger hole in his back. Much bigger hole.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, because deer rifles, those don't fuck around at all.
No.
And if you're shooting one that has like rounds well enough to fucking take down a bear,
A black bear.
they made this thing bigger than a black bear, much bigger than a black bear,
Oh
almost as
yeah.
big as a grizzly.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
And again, it still worked. It still worked. It was so stupid. Everything was so stupid that you had no choice but to suspend disbelief.
Right.
And it was still so legitimately funny that you can't sit there and be like, this movie's stupid. Maybe somebody like my dad. I don't think so. Like, I think this movie could be fun for just about everybody that's old enough to not get freaked out.
Yeah, by all counts, it's you hear about this movie, you read at the synopsis or whatever, and it's like by all counts, this movie should be stupid and horrible. And why the fuck did it get made? How did it get made? Who greenlight this shit? Who paid for it? But then you see the movie and you're like, okay, okay, I get what they were going for. This is a lot of fun. And that's what that's what a lot of us are into. We're just out for a good time, good fun time. We don't need super plots. We don't need like Oscar level acting. It's not necessary. You just need actors that are committed to having a good time. They like the script and they all can play off each other very well. Like everybody worked so well off each other. Even the cop and David were, that was such a fun interaction. He's like, I'm just waiting for your homeboy to come out from under the gazebo. So he throws his gun out there. I can put my gun away.
That scene was pretty fantastic. I mean, I know we already talked about the cocaine Christmas, but the how did you lose those two fingers was fucking hysterical. Just the cop in general was sweet, naive, but not a pushover at the same time. Like, you pretty much figured he would have shot David one way or the other.
Yeah.
And he did.
And he took off two digits that make no sense, but whatever. It's like, David, how are you reaching for that gun? Like, it's like, oh, whatever.
And you can't even say this is so stupid. It's just, how did that happen? Ha ha ha.
You know, yeah, there's some things that'll make you think and make you pause. And there's some suspensions of disbelief that may or may not fly for you. But on the overall level, if you're a fan of horror comedies, House, Tremors, you know, Krampus, you know, Trick or Treat, you know, I mean, you're gonna have a good time with this movie. And that's all it needed to be. And it did it, and it exceeded at doing it. I had a great time. But I got to see it, and it's not part of the collection.
Excellent. Same here. Bought it too. And actually, this is the first movie I've gotten to watch with my wife in almost a year. So that was cool. And what made it even extra cool was that she liked it. So I was like, yes.
Even better. All right, Kevin, you got anything else for us today, or are we ready to wrap it up?
I think we're ready to wrap it up. Like, there's not much more about this movie that we can say other than this is fantastic.
Yep, just didn't have any cocaine to go with it, but that is okay. I've seen enough of those gags on other YouTube reviews. We don't need to do that here. We just made slight sniffing noises throughout the review, if you've been paying attention to us. But hey, we all had a great time. We highly recommend this one. And hey, if you want to join us on Patreon, come on over to patreon.com/SunsAndShadowsCast and join Chad Peterman and Skeeter Slater as our Patreon supporters. All right, thank you everybody for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Make sure you check us out on all of our social media platforms. We got Facebook, Twitter. We are at Suns and Shadows. We're also on Instagram at SunsAndShadowsCast. We are at SunsAndShadows.com. Thank you again, everybody, and we'll see you down the road.